let's go ahead and get to the agenda. We are going to have a combination again of sharing content and then question and answer towards the end. I want to make sure that we have enough time to put some things out there to chew on. And so we'll hold off on those questions being answered until later in the program, but they're important and they matter. So please be sure to hold on to those, write them down so that we can take them on later towards the end of the time together here. I want to move us to what we're really here to talk about, and that's self-awareness. And let me make sure I get this clicker to work how it's supposed to work here. We're ready to rock. We're going to take a look at the power of self-awareness, and we're going to take a look at self-awareness through the lens of the EQI, model of emotional intelligence. And that's what you see there on the screen. The EQI model of emotional intelligence feeds into the EQI 2.0 assessment, an assessment that was developed to capture, to quantify connection and engagement. And when we talk about self-awareness, I want to shine a light on the composite that really is critical to that space, and that's the composite of self-perception. Critical for our being able to understand ourselves, for our being able to see who we are and what we bring to the world. And if I have to choose one out of this group here that is even more critical than the others are, I would call out, and I want to shine a light on this first one there coming out from the center, emotional self-awareness. Emotional self-awareness is critical to our overall emotional intelligence, and particularly critical for our being able to understand ourselves, for our being able to see who we are. So we're going to narrow our focus and really talk about that important space. What I want to do is first talk about what it is, why it matters, and then what can we do about it. Emotional self-awareness is really our ability to understand what it is we are feeling and why we might be feeling that way. Our ability to make connections like, I'm feeling mad right now, and I know it's because X, Y, or Z happened. Our ability to get to the what and the why of what we're feeling, and emotional self-awareness is really about our ability to differentiate between emotions. Our ability to say, I'm feeling mad right now. No, actually, I'm frustrated, and those are different. Our ability to get to the what and the why is so important in our overall self-awareness, because our understanding what it is we're feeling and then making the connection to why that might be has everything to do with how we choose to show up and engage with the world around us. The choices we make behaviorally, attitudinally, emotionally need to be informed by that what and that why. These choices have everything to do with the impact on our relationships, on our managing stress, on our making decisions, on our building this space of self-awareness. We're able to more effectively step into the how we are going to choose those behaviors, emotions, those attitudes. And so what I want to talk to you today is about you're becoming more self-aware by really leaning into these three small but powerful words. Really reflecting on what is it that you feel? Why might you be feeling that way? And how are you going to allow the what and the why to feed into the how you move forward? These three but powerful words, I promise you, if you make them part of your world, will help you more effectively show up and engage with it. Let's talk a little bit more about those three small words. I want to focus in, and let me pause because I see a lot of people getting dropped and coming back in, and I'm so sorry about all of those tech issues. Coming back and coming in, and sometimes choosing a different browser is really all I can offer you given this crazy time we're living in. So it seems like a lot of people are finding their way back. We are recording this, and so if you miss parts, you're going to be able to watch it through a recording a bit later. So let's break this apart some. The what, the understanding what it is you are feeling. Now, a critical ingredient for our to be able to really fully understand the what we are feeling is what I'm going to call, and what is called, emotional literacy. Our ability to notice, to interpret, to understand, to read, and therefore to be able to write our emotional state, what it is we're feeling. That emotional literacy allows us to more fully get to our what. Now, here's the thing, folks. We all just don't show up and we're rocking with lots of emotional literacy. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes attention and deliberation. And one of the things that you can do to become more emotionally literate, for you to enhance your ability to understand what you're feeling, to read, to write, to interpret, to notice, and then to articulate. One of the key ingredients to doing that would be to really pay attention to your emotional vocabulary. The emotional words, the mood words, the feeling words you have access to. Some of us have a full crayon box of colorfully emotional crayons, allowing us to read and then to color those lines a bit more fully. And some of us have what I would say 3.5. I use that I'm mad, I'm sad, and I'm happy, and I'm hungry. And so, what's your box look like? Do you have an opportunity to add to your crayon box? Do you have an opportunity to throw a wider net to enrich your emotional vocabulary? What I want to do is to do that right here together. I am interested in our starting to build that emotional vocabulary space right now together. I'd love for each of you to take a look at that chat pot down at the bottom of the screen here and to begin to populate it with some of your emotional words, some of your feeling words, some of your mood words. What do you access? What do you use? Share with us some of those so that we can begin to take a look at throwing that net a bit wider, filling that crayon box with some more colors. Love it, love it, love it. Keep it coming, keep it coming. Very good, very good. Here's what I want you to think about. Everything that you're putting here, I'm going to go ahead and pull together and send your way when we send you a link of that recording. I want you to learn from and with one another. Are there emotional words? Are there mood words? Are there feeling words you're not using and you might have an opportunity to use? Have you given any of these things thought? Have you thought about pulling them in to color that emotional world a bit more than it currently is? If you do any kind of Google search, you will find a ton of resources that will allow you to enrich that vocabulary. Feeling wheels, emotional words, mood words, lots of different resources will surface, that lots will be yielded if you do a quick Google search. I encourage you to begin thinking about your emotional vocabulary. It is a way in to more effective self-awareness. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move us back to the previous layout, promising you you're going to see those words again going forward through email. And I want to talk to you about this next part, because even with a rich emotional vocabulary, what we still have to consider is how we can get to our why. Our what we are feeling can't fully be understood until we start to explore the why we might be feeling it. And so let's talk about getting to your why. Why are you feeling what you're feeling? Here's what I want you to think about. When you are feeling frustrated, how often are you considering why that might be? When we consider the why, we are debating and disputing, we are exploring why we feel what we think we feel. We are being curious about our emotional state, and we are being honest about our emotional state. Being honest isn't always pretty, friends. It isn't always sexy to say that I feel a certain way, and that's okay. But honesty matters. And are you willing to peel back that onion, to peel back those layers? If you're not doing those things, you can't fully get to your why. Here on the screen are some questions for you to consider to help you get to your why. When you feel frustrated, asking yourself, are there other forces here that might be shaping how I feel? Let me give you an example of what that looks like in practice. Last week, I got an email from my colleague Gina Carter, and so many of you know Gina Carter. She's amazing at what she does, and she's one of my best friends. Got an email from her, and I felt very frustrated because the email was about a technology issue. And in addition to being a trainer and a coach, facilitator at OKA, I handle our technology, our website, and these virtual platforms. And so when she sent that my way, I felt very frustrated and was going to fire off an email reply back. Fortunately, I'm a professional, and I reminded myself to get to the why. Why am I feeling frustrated? And through that exploration, what I realized is that I was feeling frustrated because I was being inundated with technology issues from a variety of people, in addition to the ones I was facing myself. And through this exploration, I realized I wasn't actually frustrated. I was actually feeling overwhelmed. And that's far different than frustrated. Doing this exploration allowed me to choose the how I was going to move forward. Instead of firing off that email at Gina, I decided to look inward. How could I choose behaviors, emotions, attitudes that would allow me to move away from that feeling of being overwhelmed? Are you asking that kind of question? Are you asking questions like, are there any other explanations for what I'm feeling? Another example, I'll take it out of the workplace and into my marriage. Yesterday, I was feeling rather agitated with my husband. And in exploring why was I so agitated with Aaron, what I was able to do is get to the root of the agitation. The root of the agitation was that we had some disagreements earlier in the day. And those disagreements were about really important things, like how to best slice a pineapple and which bowl to put the fruit salad in. Really important disagreements. And so what I realized is that the agitation I was feeling was rooted in another explanation. What was the other explanation? Here is what I realized. Typologically, I I have preferences that lead me to wanting things done to be done in a certain way. There is a proper sequence at which you slice a pineapple. And he was bucking me. He didn't want to slice it that way. And and so in my exploration around agitation in my marriage, like, are we going to make it through this quarantine? I realized it said far more about me than it did him. And that was different than taking a path, choosing to act upon agitation. Are you challenging yourself to ask these questions? If you're not, you can't fully get to the what you're feeling, and that certainly is going to impact how you move forward. One final thought here. Labeling your emotions is key. That emotional literacy, having access to that emotional vocabulary, can help you label it and therefore tame it. I already called this out, but it deserves its own slide. Your ability to name it can allow you to tame it. But what's missing here is your being very intentional about claiming it. You have to be honest about what it is you're feeling, about why you might be feeling that way. It gets really muddy, friends, when you start to tell yourself, no, I don't feel that way. I shouldn't feel that way. Why would I feel that way? Nope, not going to do it. Own it, acknowledge it, claim it, and move away from it. It's the only way that you can move effectively into your how. I want you to think about the name it, the claim it. I want you to think about your being very intentional about what you're feeling. Emotional literacy, emotional vocabulary, throwing a wider net, allowing you to explore your why. Why do you feel what you're feeling? Debate it, dispute it, explore it. Are you willing to do that? Because that, my friends, is really important. It's critical into your how. How are you showing up? How are you engaging with the world? What does that look and sound and feel like? You need to start thinking about that if you're really interested in self-awareness. I know that we have a very quick hit here. And so what I want to do is, I'm not going to tell you another story. Those of you who have had me for programs, you know you always learn more than you want or need to know about Jen Sanders. So you have some stories there to make some connections. I want to end this of my sharing with asking you to really think about your curiosity. Brene Brown does amazing work around how most of us aren't curious about our emotional state or the feelings that we're feeling. Look into that. I want to also share with you some other resources that touch on things I've said today. Those resources you see up here on the screen, I will also be sending to you in an email. So you can jot them down, or you can wait for that email to come along. Growth and development around self-awareness should be focused. It should be narrowed, because we can fail when there's just too much we're trying to do. Focus, narrow, enhance that emotional self-awareness space through resources like this. I want to also give an opportunity to, and I'm going to change the screens here, to ask if you all have any resources you'd like to share. We, again, created this space so we could learn from and with one another. Any resources that you might offer, books you've read, articles you've read, TED Talks, I love me a good TED Talk, that would help us get to our what and our why, and then the how. Self-perception, self-awareness, I don't care what you want to call it, anything you might offer to us so that we can learn together. I too will be capturing the resources that you share and sharing those with everybody. let me leave this page up for a little while because I want to pull all of those data in. I am interested in some questions and some curiosities, some comments that you might have. And I saw the chat pod going, and I love it. I'm hopeful that you are all learning together, even as I was putting some content out there. I want to make sure you have answers to questions. And I know that in 6 minutes, we won't likely be able to get to all the questions that you might have. We are looking at ways that we can create more spaces for just those questions. And so be on the lookout going forward, not only for those other 4 webinars that are going to be in this 5-part series, because those are coming your way, but also something that we create where we just explore some of those questions. I love the resources. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't wait to actually look at them myself. Here's what I would like to do. I want to quickly do a shout out here for our doing some more. And sorry, I have some technology hiccups here, and that was distracting. Sorry. There are 4 other webinars we're pulling together that are going to be very similar to this. Quick hits, opportunities to connect, opportunities to learn from and with one another. And so be on the lookout. We'll be publishing those through our newsletter, through LinkedIn, and also letting you know through email. If you are not yet connected to us through LinkedIn, we would love for you to consider doing so. I've just pulled a box in there, and there's a link that'll take you to our LinkedIn group. There's a link for our newsletter. If you're not currently on our newsletter list and you'd like to be, we'd love to have you. Go ahead and click that link, and that'll take you to the newsletter. And then I know at the beginning, some of you said you were here to talk about emotional intelligence in this tool. And of course, in addition to learning about yourself, because that's always an opportunity for us, if you're curious about certification around the EQI, we would love for you to consider OKA in that certification space. And so up on the screen are some of our upcoming dates, and we've actually added to even that list. There's a link here to take you to our website if you'd like some more information. All right, friends, I'm gonna zip it, and I would love to hear from you if you have any questions, if you have any comments about what we have explored today. I am going to pull a chat pod into this space, and so we can keep the resources separate from our questions. I'm very happy to stay on and answer additional questions and comments. If you have the time, please stay with me. If you don't have the time, if this is something you have to exit, I want to then formally thank you right here, right now, for being a part of this series of making a connection when connections are so critical today. Thank you for being a friend of OKA, new and old, and I sure hope our paths cross again one day soon. For those of you who have to leave, thank you so very much. For those of you who have a few extra minutes to stay, please, let's continue our conversation. I'm looking in the chat pod here, and I'm interested in taking on some of these questions. I see here, Tracy Faithful, how do you use the ABCDE model during today's time? Tracy, that's a really good question. The ABCDE model is actually rooted in Dr. Ellis's work around rational emotive behavior theory, and it's good stuff. In fact, if you have been certified in the EQI, you would have received an orange book called the EQ Edge. The ABCDE model is actually written up in that book. Check it out. It's Tracy, very similar to what I've put out there. I have found the ABCDE model can be a lot to take apart, and so I just prefer three small but powerful words: the what, the why, and the how. But you'll see a lot of overlap. So check it out if you've not heard of that before. Let me see what else. Otto would be so proud. Thank you, Leno. I love all. Thank you so much for everybody. Let's see. Self-awareness isn't always about moods. Can you speak to what else it refers to? Peter, you're absolutely right. Self-awareness is not only about what it is we feel. And so I took and shined a bright light on emotional self-awareness, which takes us to that mood, those feelings, those emotions. What it also is about, self-perception, self-awareness is about how we see ourselves. When we take a look at who we are and what we bring to the world, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly, how we feel confident and secure, how we feel worthy, we value who we are. That lives in that space. That self-esteem can certainly color that self-awareness. But also is a part of self-awareness is what we would call self-actualization, our ability to set goals, to challenge ourselves, to work towards self-improvement, our desire to strive forward. All of those come together, and certainly we could argue that the net could be thrown wider, but in terms of the EQI, we're talking about self-regard, self-actualization, and emotional self-awareness. You're absolutely right. Important. John, there is going to be a recording, and we will be sending that your way. Do you see reframing as a form of, or separate from tame? So, Stacy, great question. So I love the name it that leads to the tame it. Before we wrap that up, though, we should be claiming it. So let's name it, then let's claim it. That allows us to tame it, which then, Stacy, absolutely yes, that can allow us to reframe it. And in part of your why, curiosity, the exploration, the examination, the debating, the disputing, and part of that why is the reframing. So I name it, I feel mad. I claim it. I'm going to allow myself to say I feel mad. I'm going to then allow that to tame it so that I can challenge myself to really understand, why might that be that I feel this, which then moves to the reframing. So Stacy, it is all. I'm naming it, I'm claiming it, I'm taming it, I'm reframing it. Yes, 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 love it. Chloe, how would you convince someone they need to develop their self-awareness if they're not self-aware? It's a really great question, and so I always like to use what I call, and it's a very Jen-like term, gentle curiosity. And so in a discussion, asking someone, so it feels like to me that yesterday you were agitated. Did I pick up on that the right way? Because that's what I was reading. I want to make sure that I read it correctly. And it's through those gentle probes that we might begin to open someone's eyes to, hey, you're putting out, your messaging isn't maybe aligned with what it is you're feeling. And so let's connect those dots together. I believe it's really tough to force someone to become more self-aware, and that's oftentimes because growth and development is hard enough on its own. But if I'm unwilling to do that, if I'm unwilling to hold a mirror up and take an honest look at myself, it can be that much more difficult. So Chloe, I would say gentle curiosity, really coming and helping the person connect to those dots, seeing that there are disconnects, and then exploring that together. I want to keep seeing here again. If you're able to say love it, please let's keep going on this conversation. I have of course lost where I was with the questions, so I'm really sorry if I Tanya Hall. If you have the EQI book, the ABCDE model is in chapter 2, page 3. Excellent, Tanya. I remember having. Thank you so much. Thank you. Page 43 is the ABCDE model of the EQ Edge, a great book if you've not yet tapped into that. Looks like lots of. Okay, awesome. Can you suggest? Christina says, can you suggest one specific feeling wheel that you like? Christina, I actually, what I'll do is this, and I'm going to move this off to the side. Just hang with me for a moment. I will actually include the feeling wheel that I'm most fond of, which is this one here. And in that email that we will be sending, that we will be sending to you, I'll send it to you through a link. Actually, it's found on a website that it's called 100 Mood Words or something like that. And it's a fantastic website, bigger than just this graphic. There's a lot of great content around emotional literacy and emotional vocabulary. So I'll make sure that that gets included in that that email when we send that off. So thank you for that question, and that's coming your way. Anything else that you might want to take on right now? There were a lot of questions that came even in the registration that we didn't take on, and we will take on at a later date. Harris, hi. What are some of your favorite coaching questions around emotional self-awareness? And so Harris, it's a really great question, because so many of us use the EQI assessment in the coaching space at the individual level. And so Harris is asking, what are some of the coaching questions that I might be able to ask? The important part is really first understanding the connection that a client has to emotional self-awareness before you craft your questions. Is someone who is sitting in front of you, your client, or maybe even someone that is not a client, maybe it's a friend or a family member, is their connection underused? It's weak. There's a lower level of engagement. It's hard for them to get in and access. Or is it maybe on the other side? It's so strong that they bring a hypersensitivity to the emotional self-awareness space, maybe filtering through a rather hypersensitive filter. The questions we ask around emotional self-awareness need to be rooted in that connection and engagement. And so first I want you to think about that. But I really love to explore with folks in that space things like, tell me about the last time you felt really angry. Tell me about what that felt like and why you felt that way. Were you able to connect those dots? And if so, I'd love to hear what those connections were. So many of us label emotions using some rather generic emotional words. So I felt really angry, and it was because of this. In the coaching space, we could tear that apart for plenty of that coaching, just really better understanding, getting to the root, going back to that why and those questions that I put out there. So Harris, great question. I'm sure everyone forgot what he even asked because I was running my mouth. Sorry about that. Kathleen, oh, thank you. Thank you, Kathleen Mills. So great to have you. see. What are the top 3 elements of EQ we should particularly pay attention to during this time? And so Tracy, I'm gonna take us back to the for those of you who are still connected, I'm going to take us back to the EQI model, because Tracy's asking which of these do I believe are really important during this pandemic, this time of isolation, of disconnect. And here's the thing, Tracy, I do not love to say these ones are the ones that absolutely are most critical, because I think that's too prescriptive. And if you had me for EQI certification, you would have heard me say way too many times probably that I think it's a mistake to use this model, to use the assessment, to use the insight prescriptively. It's really about understanding what's going on in your world that needs to inform where you focus your energy, your time, your attention. And so Tracy, I know that's a squishy answer, but it really does matter. Prescriptive use of the tool can be dangerous, in my opinion, especially at this particular time. And I'm not saying that's a stupid question, Tracy. It's an important question for us to really wrap our hands around. Here's though what I will say. Emotional self-awareness, Tracy and gang, is critical for our success. In fact, it's a foundational element. So many of the other elements you see in this wheel are actually built upon emotional self-awareness. Our ability to understand what we're feeling, why we're feeling that way, to differentiate, feeds into the way we express ourselves, the way we build relationships, the way we manage our stress and make decisions. So I'm going to go on record as saying that during this time and all times, emotional self-awareness is really important. Thank you for asking that question, Tracy. It's an important one. Okay, and let's see. How can EQ techniques be used in the relational space when it is not a coaching role? Marie, great question. And so let me use another example of my my personal world. In fact, this happened yesterday as well. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and friends, EQ knows no age. It knows no age. I cannot stress the importance of talking about this stuff with everybody in your world. So I talked to my kids about it. And so my daughter came in and she was feeling frustrated. And so I put my coaching hat on, kind of, sorta, and I helped her explore that frustration. So you're telling me you're frustrated, Isabella. Let's talk about why. Why are you feeling frustrated? And she, of course, as she says almost daily, told me it was about her brother. And those two are really struggling with the closed space that we're in. And so we talked about her frustration, her why. But what Marie and gang surfaced is that she actually wasn't frustrated. She was feeling hurt. She was feeling underappreciated because she had made brownies and was excited to share those with my son AJ, and he was rather indifferent with his appreciation. And so in talking to Isabella and using these techniques, I was asking her to explore with me what she thought she was feeling and why she thought she was feeling that way. And And what we changed from was frustration to I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling underappreciated. And that then led to let's talk about how we can act upon those feelings. We named it, we claimed it, we tamed it. That led to, as Stacy said earlier, reframing it. And so, Marie, that's an example of how I use it in relational spaces. It need not only be at the individual coaching level or even at the group facilitation level. There are so many opportunities to bring this into our worlds in a lot of different ways. Very great question. And let's see here. What was the website for 100 emotions? Coach said, I I'll send that to you in our email. I believe it's called 100moodwords.com or .org. But don't hold me to that. It's I think a fantastic space. Interestingly enough, when you start to do the feeling words, the mood words, and enrich that emotional vocabulary, you're going to find that it takes you to a lot of education sites. So many schools are pulling this as part of their curriculum. Yay, I'm so delighted to see it. And so you're going to actually see that when you start to Google, you're pulled towards some of those education sites. But that specific website will come your way. Thank you. All right. I know people have lots going on in their world, and so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up officially now. I thank you for being part of this time. You have a lot of other things going on, and you chose to be here today, and we are so grateful for that. Please consider reconnecting with us as we move forward, pulling other webinars in, touch on this emotional intelligence space, and maybe others that touch on some other stuff. Thank you for being a friend. Please stay safe and healthy, and I'm most hopeful our paths will cross again very soon. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.